Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You're still watching Breakfast Show live on Nile TV International. And as we mentioned earlier on the second segment of the show, we're going to be going back in history to talk more about religion during the ancient Egyptian times. How did religion affect the ancient Egyptians, and how was it, in what form was religion during that time? And on this interesting issue, we have the pleasure to be joined by Mr. Said Mahmoud, researcher and Egyptologist. Good morning, sir, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Mr. Said. Let's talk about religion. How did ancient Egyptians have any concern? To our knowledge, that ancient Egyptians have always been concerned about faith generally and religion, and with Aton, the idea of unifying only one God came. So explain to us, how did it first start, and why were they so much concerned with everything that is related to unifying one God?
Yeah. Actually, we can consider this when we consider the nature of the Egyptian land itself. We have the upper part, or Upper Egypt. It's the south of Cairo up to Aswan. And Lower Egypt is north of Cairo up to Mediterranean Sea. There are differences between the geographical landscape between Upper Egypt and Lower Egypt. Lower Egypt, delta with water, with vegetations, and so on. But in the on the Upper Egypt or the southern Egypt, desert, mountains, the valley Nile is very small. All these matters or these elements affected on the ancient Egyptian people. That's why they've been thinking about the sunrise and sunset and all the natural phenomenon which affect on the beginning of the the appearance of the ancient Egyptian cult or religion. Actually, what you are talking about, Aton, it's later on during the 18th dynasty that was having a kind of reformation. We can compare it with what was done in Europe in the Middle Ages in the 16th century AD by Martin Luther. Martin Luther, the one who reformed the, or made a new cult, a new sect against the...
You mean Martin Luther King?
No, Martin Luther King, it's in the United States. The other one in the 16th century, who arranged or established the Protestant sect in the Christian religion. It was a kind of reformation against the powerful and the influence of the church in all the matters of life. And he wanted to separate what is for religion apart from what is daily life. Akhenaten did that reformation, or let's see, he called for one God. But if we consider this as a kind of reformation, it's not new at its time, because we know that Ra ruled a main part in God Ra, the sun disk, ruled a main part in the Egyptian mythology or in the Egyptian cult. The monotheism or the monotheism was known from the beginning of the ancient Egyptian religion. Ra was the main god or the official god, and others, divinities or deities, being like kind of aspects or characters of that god. That's why we knew about those totems. The totem, it's like an emblem or symbol of a tribe or a village. Each village in the beginning of the history or the pre-dynastic time had a little emblem or a little deity. We call it totem. That totem was developed into a local god. And the owner of this province or this village became a high rank, or let's say became a king after the unification. His god, deity, passed from a local deity into official god of the whole country. That's why he had to identify with Ra. We have a lot of examples about this topic. We have Amun-Ra during the New Kingdom. He was just a little, deity, and he was just a local deity. After that, he became the official deity when the governors of Thebes or Luxor became pharaohs of Egypt. Let's say when the governor of the province became a pharaoh, his deity or his local deity became official god. But he can't stand alone. he had to identify with that main god or the sun cult. The sun cult represented the essential, or let's say the basic of the ancient Egyptian religion, because sunrise and sunset, it's a phenomenon which happens all the days here in Egypt. We don't have that smog or, the weather always sunny during the day. And that phenomenon played a main role in the Egyptian cult. But where the sun goes during the night, during the day you can see from sunrise up to sunset, but during the night where it goes, they've been thinking about that. And they imagined another underground world and another underground sky. That when the sun moves from our sky during the day up to the second sky or the underground sky. But is that sun disk moves itself? No, it needs a kind of means of transportation or means to carry it from sunset to sunrise again. That's why they imagined the sky as a lady, bowing or and standing upon the legs from one side and the hands from the other side. And they represented the solar disk next to her mouth. That means sunset. And she gave birth to that sun disk in the next day. And they employed a boat to carry the sun from sunrise to sunset, and another boat to carry the sun from sunset to sunrise again. And this phenomenon, all the deceased, even the pharaoh himself, going to face to get his destiny in the afterlife. So he had to move from sunset, which means death, to rebirth again, sunrise. That's why they employed a figure of a cow that was called Hathor or Nut. They've been identified together. Hathor and Nut, the goddess of the sky, and we can see a cow with full of her body, its body full of stars. That means you can see the stars during the night, but you can't see it during the day. That's why they've been also thinking what goes with those stars, and each star has its own name. We have two famous stars known from the ancient Egyptian time, Sirius and Orion, and those marked what we call it the Nile flood. Also, regarding the Nile flood, was a kind of rebirth. Always in the, let's see, that phenomenon happened in August or the second half of July, the flood season or the inundation season. Flood season or the inundation season, it's kind of rebirth. That's why they employed Osiris in different colors. Let's see, in black color as underworld god, and in green color as the god of the rebirth or resurrection, to be exactly, because they thought that the death is not the end of the life. We will have immortal and eternal life. In the beginning of the ancient Egyptian time, in the appearance of this mythology, of this cult, they imagined different theories. Let's say the priests of each city, the main cities like Memphis or Ain Shams, Heliopolis, or Thebes or Luxor, they imagined, they employed like a kind of primitive philosophy and a kind of imagination about the creation of the world. For example, we have in Ain Shams what we call it Enid. Enid means 9 gods. And that was identified or was resembled with the Ta'tinin. Ta'tinin in hieroglyphics means the archaic mountain or the bromidal or the primitive hill where Ta'tinin appeared from Nu. Nu means the chaos or the ocean where the world started. And above this hill was the god Atum. In some other theories we call him Ra, because that's why Atum was Atum, not Aton, Atom with M. And we can compare this with Adam. Atom, Adam. I don't know, but there is kind of, because his name means the complete one, the infinitive one, the one who created himself by himself. And then he spit, created the sky goddess, and then he vomited, created the earth god. That's what was, tell us the story or the legend. that the sky and the earth been together as brother and sister, and they've been together. But atom, what are they are doing? They are brothers and sisters. That's why he invented a new one. We call him Shu. Shu is the air god. That god is standing in position with the lifted hands, carrying the sky separated from the earth. The earth on its back as a male god, and the sky bending over as a female goddess. With that relation between the sky and the earth, we have another goddess. We have Osiris, we have Isis, we have Set, Nephthys, and later on Horus. From this point appeared what we call it the Isis and Osiris legend. We knew that Osiris being killed by his evil brother Set, and he torn his body into pieces and he threw all over Egypt. That's why goddess Isis collected the body again, and with a magical power she could get pregnant with that famous god Horus. Horus, when he came, as a youth, he wanted revenge his father's death, and he could battle against Set, and then he became the king of Egypt. That's why all kings of Egypt or pharaohs being represented as Horus, or the son of Horus, that falcon god. And they've been protected by him. That's why we can see some statues represent the pharaohs, and on the back of the neck or behind the neck, we can see that falcon god with splendid wings as a kind of protection. And in the forehead, you can see the cobra, Wajit, the goddess of protection, and also the vulture, or that bird famous known from the Upper Egypt. Upper Egypt was the vulture, or Nekhbet, and Lower Egypt was the cobra, Wajid. Not only that theory, there is another theory talking about the Ogdad. Ogdad means 8 gods, 4 couples, male and female. And these 4 couples, they appeared in a place we call it nowadays Ashmunin. It's in Minya Governorate, where is the famous serabium of the baboons and the ibis bird. Those carried the sacred egg where started the creation of the world up to a place in Luxor, we call it Habu. Habu, where there is a big temple there. It was construction of King Ramses III during the 20th dynasty. Then, when they carried that sacred egg, started the creation of the world, and that was a theory invented for Ammon. The different theories show us the struggle and the conflict between the priesthood. Each city wanted to as the creation of the world, or the creation of the land of Egypt started with their own god. Even those being like local deities, but they related on with Ra, or the sun disk. That's why we have it's the Egyptian mythology very, very complicated, because you can see like goddess Bastet, the cat. She been identified with the Sekhmet, the lioness, and later on she became as a goddess of love and music. There is no relation between war and love and music, but this is a changeable of the roles of gods and the parts that played in the Egyptian cult. This mythology or this cult have been developed with the passing of time. Let's see, during the Old Kingdom, some gods they had some characters. They been changed during the Middle Kingdom, and later on been changed during the New Kingdom. Later on, some gods being worshipped during the Greek-Roman time as well. We have like goddess Isis, been identified with Aphrodite and Hathor itself. Hathor, the goddess of love and music, being identified with Aphrodite because Hathor and Isis, they been played the same role in as one called Mother of Horus, and the other one was called the nurse of Horus, the one who take care of Horus when his mother been engaged with the struggle with the god Set. I think time is
Right.
Yeah.
True, Mr. Said Mohammed, researcher and Egyptologist, many thanks for your insight and for your presence.
Thank you.
And I guess, ladies and gentlemen, and Dina, we are at the end of our daily breakfast show, and you were in the company of Naveen Ramzi and Dina Hussein. Thank you very much, Dina.
My pleasure, Naveen. You have a wonderful and until you're back again tomorrow, that's a goodbye.